Good afternoon, my name is Camden and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be going over my summer TBR. I am very much a mood reader and my reading preferences are pretty heavily impacted by the weather and the season that we're currently in, so I like to divide these TBRs out seasonally so that I can kind of cater to those preferences or the types of books that I like to read in each season. Because I'm a mood reader, I have a tendency to read outside of the books that I end up picking, so I've been trying to pick only about 12 books per TBR, which means 4 books per month or so, and then I have plenty of flexibility outside of that to read whatever else I feel in the mood for at any given time. All of that being said, let's just hop into the books that I plan on reading this summer. The first book on my summer TBR is As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow by Zulfikatu. This book is set in Syria at the very beginning of the Syrian Revolution, and we're following a main character named Salama who is volunteering at a local hospital and helping to take care of the wounded who have been impacted by the violence. Throughout this book, Salama is struggling with PTSD. She's struggling to find a way out of Syria for her and her pregnant best friend, and she's also falling in love with a boy that she meets. I think this book is going to be devastating but impactful, and I plan to have an entire box of tissues on deck while reading this one. I'm still excited to read this one and learn more about Salama's story. Switching gears from hard-hitting contemporary to high fantasy, the next book on my TBR is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This book is one that I started many years ago. This book has been on my TBR for like 5+ years, so hopefully this summer is the summer that I finally knock this one off my TBR. I started this one many years ago and I read approximately 20% of it, and then for some reason I ended up putting it down, and now I've pretty much forgotten most of what I read, so I'll definitely be starting this one over from the beginning. This book is following a main character named Laszlo Strange, who is a junior librarian. One day, Laszlo comes across these 200-year-old records of this city that has completely been lost to living memory for everyone in his city. It's nameless, and they have not received any contact from this city for at least 200 years. Laszlo begins compiling as much information as he can gather on this city that he calls Weep, old trade records and things like that, and he wants to figure out what could have happened 200 years ago for this city to be completely erased from living memory and to go completely dark and contactless for the last 200 years. We're also following from the perspective of some children of the gods who are living within the city of Weep, and that is pretty much as far as I have gotten in this book and everything that I gathered from the plot as far as I had read. So I'm really excited to get back into this world and to discover what all happened in the city of Weep. The next book on my summer TBR is Heart of the Sun Warrior by Su-Lin Tan. This is the second book in the Celestial Kingdoms duology, the first book being Daughter of the Moon Goddess, which I just read back in April. So I'm really excited to read the second book. I'm definitely interested to see where the story goes next because I feel like Daughter of the Moon Goddess was a pretty complete book. Like, there weren't that many lingering questions at the end of Daughter of the Moon Goddess, but I expect that we'll see more conflict between Xingyan and the Celestial Emperor and Empress, as well as a little more development in the romance between her and Prince Liwei, so I am excited to pick this one up and finish out this duology. The next book on my summer TBR is Wayward by Amelia Hart. I have heard so many good things about this book from everybody who has read it without anyone ever actually delving into what the plot is actually about. So I'm going into this one a little bit blind. The only information I really have on the plot of this one is that it's following 3 women in this family from 3 different generations. And all 3 of their stories in some way tie back to their ancestral home of Wayward Cottage. I believe this one has witchcraft in it in some capacity, but I'm not exactly sure what else this book covers. So I'm excited to go in without too much information and just see what I think. I'm really trying to prioritize a lot of books that have been on my physical TBR for a number of years. So in the spirit of that, the next book on my TBR is Willa of the Wood by Robert Beatty. This one is like a nature fae middle grade novel. It looks really sweet and fun. It sounds like our main character of Willa is some type of dryad or fairy creature who lives in the Smoky Mountains and interacts with the nature around her. So I'm just excited to read this one and see what I think. It looks really sweet and fun. So what better choice for summer, right? The next book on my TBR is The Gilded Ones by Namina Forna. I feel like I've seen this book cropping up on every fantasy recommendations list for the past couple of years, so it's definitely been on my radar for quite some time. This book is following a main character named Decca who submits to a blood ceremony at the age of 16, only to find out that her blood is gold. And there she receives an offer to come join the king's army of immortal women, and she accepts. From what I hear, this one is inspired by West African mythology and also leans very heavily into the chosen one trope, so I'm excited to check this one out and see what I think. The next couple of books on my list are from my 5-star predictions for the year. So the first one that I want to read this summer is The Sunbearer Trials by Aiden Thomas. This book is based on Mexican mythology, and we are following a demigod named Tio who is entering into these Sunbearer Trials to find out which child of the gods is going to be the one to bring the lights to the temples around their country, and which one of them is going to be a sacrifice to the sun god. So very high stakes, as high as you can get, and I have read and loved Aiden Thomas's work in the past, so I'm super excited to delve back into some of his writing and of course see if I have correctly predicted this one as being a 5-star. The second 5-star prediction on my TBR for the summer is The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. This book is a high-stakes quest novel. We're following a goddess who married and had children with a human emperor, and she has been imprisoned and locked under the palace for many years. However, she is now escaped and she is trying to overthrow him with the help of some other characters in this book. By all accounts, this book is written in a very unique style, and I'm excited to see what that means. I don't know if it's magical realism or if there's a lot of symbolism. I really don't understand exactly what I'm getting myself into with the writing, but I'm excited to find out. The next book on my TBR is one that needs no introduction, and that is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. This book has been absolutely everywhere, and I feel like everybody knows what this book is about already, but in case you do not, this is following a caseworker for magical youths, and he owns like a group home where they take shelter, and he's like their caretaker. I'm surprised that I have not picked this one up yet with how popular it is, but my mom got me this one for Christmas, so really excited to read this one and see if it lives up to the hype. Speaking of my mom, the next book on my TBR is The Soulmate by Sally Hepworth. This is one of my favorite authors, an auto-buy author for me. I read her new book every single year. This one is actually also a 5-star prediction. I kind of forgot about that. But this one is following a married couple who lives pretty close to a cliff edge where a lot of people go to try and commit suicide. Between the two of them, they have intervened many times and talked people off the literal edge. However, one day someone ends up completing suicide, and the wife in this relationship starts to find connections between this victim and her husband and starts to suspect that he may in some way have been involved. My mom actually saw me mention this book on my channel previously, and she's been reading it and enjoying it, so I'm excited to see if I enjoy this one as well. I also really love the cover of this book. It's so beautiful. We are down to the final 2 books on my TBR. Next, I have The House of Salt and Sorrow by Erin A. Craig. This is another book that I have owned and had on my TBR for many, many years. I cannot imagine why it's taken me this long to read this one, because I have actively been interested in picking this one up for the entire time that I have owned it. This one is a 12 Dancing Princesses fairy tale retelling, and 12 Dancing Princesses is one of my absolute favorite fairy tales. There are not that many retellings of it, so I'm so excited to pick this one up. I believe it's set in like a under the sea kingdom or a seaside kingdom. I know water and the ocean is very heavily involved in this one, so I'm so excited to read this one. It feels like a perfect fit for summer to me. And if you know of any other 12 Dancing Princesses retellings or Princess and the Pea retellings, those are two of my favorite fairy tales, and I feel like I don't see enough retellings of them. So leave any suggestions you have for those down in the comments if you can. And the final book on my summer TBR is All the Dead Lie Down by Kyrie McCauley. This book is following a main character named Marin, whose mother has recently passed away, and in the wake of this tragedy, she ends up going to live with one of her mother's best friends, who is a horror novelist. She's going to live with her in order to be the nanny to her two young children. Right off the bat, the situation is very strange. The children are very weird and precocious. We got that like creepy child element to this one. The house is very odd. There's a lot of strange things that keep happening. And the author is also very eccentric and weird. And Marin just has this looming sense of dread that something bad is going to happen. This one is a very gothic thriller slash horror novel, and sounds like just the kind of vibe that I'm interested in for this summer, so I'm really excited to read this one. This one actually came out on my birthday and I purchased it, and it is currently in the mail, so I cannot wait for this one to arrive. I'm so excited for all of the creepy vibes that this one is giving. And that is it for my summer TBR. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know what your summer reading plans look like. I would love to hear about it down in the comments below. But if you enjoyed this video, please like it, comment, share, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you all with a new video next week. Goodbye!